We've got a question that came in from Zara. Zara says, and she asked the question on behalf of an aunt of hers. She says, my aunt and my aunt's ex-husband signed for a house many years ago. Her ex-husband got remarried and has subsequently passed away. The house is now occupied by her ex-husband, my aunt's ex-husband's last wife, and her family. They don't pay rates or taxes, nor do they pay rent on the property. My aunt wants to sell the property, but the occupants are claiming that the house is theirs. Please, can we assist Zara and our aunt with some advice here, Bruno?
Sure. So I think Cilna and I might actually share this question because it's going to be things that different considerations here. So off the top of my mind, like if I'm looking for a quicker answer without going into the facts too much, first we need to divide this into two principles. So there's the principle of actually owning the property, which comes with certain rights to enjoy, usage, etc., etc. Then there's the question of right of occupation, right? So just because you own a property doesn't mean that you have a right to occupy it, right? It typically speaking, that is the position. But for example, if as an owner, you lease the property to someone else, then you're actually allowing someone or giving someone that right over and above yourself. So that's one thing that we need to consider. When it comes to these family issues, what we start experiencing is we land up muddying the water and merging these two principles together, which doesn't actually make sense. So a lot of the times I actually approach it as two different questions. I treat the people on the property as occupiers and the people that own the property as owners, even if there's commonalities and there's similar people that have both, doesn't matter. Because one is one thing, the other is the other, right? So that's the first thing that we need to look at. Then taking a step after that, at least with that in mind, we need to now remember that the aunt owns the property, but so did her ex-husband, because both of them, from the sounds of it, were owners of this property. And the ex-husband's right to this property. So everyone that co-owns a property would have an undivided share in that property. Undivided because you can't just like draw a line across the property and say that half is yours, this half is mine. So it's an undivided half share of the property, but where this half share is doesn't actually exist. It's just a half share to a right. So that his half share obviously would have gone somewhere. I don't know where it went. So it would have maybe gone to his current wife. Maybe he passed it on directly to his children. We don't know. So now's where the assumption comes in. First question you need to ask yourself is, who is the owner of the property? It's you, the aunt, and who else? Because that's actually the person that you need to start engaging on. Because both of you are entitled to that property, entitled to certain use, etc., etc. And if both of you are not benefiting from it, or one person's suffering over the other person, it's a problem that needs to actually get resolved, irrespective of who's occupying the property. This is a decision that the owners need to make. Now, once the owners are together, assuming that they're not going to cooperate, because they're obviously one has more interest in the occupation or something than the other, that's where we need to start asking, what is our recourse against the other owner? The reality is, if that other owner is occupying the property, all to themselves, they are acquiring a benefit over and above yourself. And unless there was a pre-existing agreement that allowed for this to happen, something that like a use of front register over the property or some sort of agreement that's binding that you as the aunt actually signed, the reality is they're not entitled to take 100% use and occupation of this property. It's not their right. And this is obviously, unfortunately, where legal costs are getting incurred, because it becomes a dispute on how the property is supposed to be used and how to deal with it. And a lot of the times, unfortunately, you might need to look for an order to try and put some kind of system into place or claim some sort of compensation for the fact that they're utilizing the property, and you're entitled to get some compensation for it. So that's one recourse. The other recourse, which I wouldn't advise, is a person can always try sell the undivided half share. And I've been to many auctions where there's an undivided half share in a property that's being sold, but it is difficult because if the other person actually owns the other undivided half share, it's not like you can just swoop in and evict them. There's more to it. So unfortunately, there's no easy answer. So step one, contact the owner, have a conversation with the owner. Step two, take recourse against the occupiers for living on the property free of charge and requiring them to actually, cover, the cost of occupation and to pay their owners what's due. And then you have to litigate if there's no other solution.